Every sign and every house, a journey starts and we allow the universe so vast and true. AstroViktor, it's here for you.
Hi, my dear family. So today we are going to be looking at Jupiter and Neptune trine that is going to be taking place next year. Now, a few people did ask me, oh, Viktor, is it not too early to speak about these aspects? And I don't think it's early, actually, because we're going to have to get ready. Secondly, even though the aspect is going to be happening next year, the exact one is going to be July 20th, 2026. But they will be within orb if you use out of sign aspects from 8th of October onwards, 2025, until about December 14th. So therefore, you're gonna get slight indications of what to expect from this trine. So that's another reason why I would like to break this down for you. Now, I have prepared a video about Jupiter in Leo and Jupiter in trine to Saturn as well. So therefore, I'm not going to be talking about those. Today, we are focusing on the Jupiter and Neptune trine. That's going to be actually a very interesting combination. One of the reasons is because it's going to be happening exactly with a Pluto opposition to it. So, but I'm going to speak about that as well separately. So we're going to have Jupiter on 4° 22 second in the sign of Leo. Neptune will be in the sign of Aries, 4° 22. And then we're going to have Pluto on 4° 26. So just a couple of, one day after, actually, we're going to have experienced the Jupiter and Pluto opposition also. But that's going to be my next video. And then we can kind of put the picture together. Okay, in this video, I'm not going to be breaking this down for the 12 signs. The reason being is because I have prepared a 2.5, 3-hour long video for each rising sign, which is available for a purchase on my website, AstroViktor.com. So if you are interested how this might be affecting you, then I recommend getting this report for your rising sign, but you can get one for your sun and moon sign as well if you wish so. In that video, I give you a lot of breakdown. We look into the rulership concept as well. And then we look at the entire big picture also. So I think it's worth getting it. Now, one more announcement to make. I'm talking about house rulerships. I am launching a course at the end of September, and I'm going to be teaching you about each house ruler in each houses. This is basically the bread and butter of astrology. So if you are serious about astrology, this is a course that you need to take. This is going to be super detailed. It's going to be a little bit of a longer course, minimum of 20 weeks, possibly slightly bit longer, because you're going to get a really detailed description of each house positions. So we're going to be looking at, for example, what happens when your 4th house ruler is in the 2nd house and so on. What type of manifestations does that bring? This is a must for those who want to make great predictions. Also, this is a must for those who want to understand their lives a lot better. This is very suitable for beginners, but also for advanced students as well, because you're going to get a lot of information in this course. Potentially one lesson is going to be about 2 hours long, and we won't be able to discuss more than 3 or 4 house positions at the same time. Now, let's get going with this Jupiter and Neptune energy. So, one other practical thing I would like to look at. Do you have any planet on 4°? Potentially in Leo, Aquarius, Aries, or Libra. But secondarily, you can look at Taurus or Scorpio as well, or potentially Virgo and Pisces, because then this is going to be super important for you. For example, I've got my rising sign being impacted by these Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto combinations, meaning that this is going to be super important for me, as in 2026. So first of all, we have got a Jupiter and Neptune cycle. This is a major astrological cycle. A cycle starts with a conjunction. A conjunction is when two planets align at the same degree in the sky. And the conjunction between these two planets happen approximately every 13 years. So we had the latest conjunction between them two, April 12, 2022, in the sign of Pisces. On top of my head, it happened around 23 degree of Pisces. This conjunction in the sign of Pisces is particularly important because a conjunction is about planting the seeds. And now we've got a trine happening between them too. So, of course, Neptune is in the sign of Aries, while Jupiter is in the sign of Leo. So the manifestations are still around the Pisces cusp of your chart, but now there is an Aries and a Leo flavor to it. I'm going to give you examples and it's going to make sense. But of course, this year we've got Jupiter in Leo and Neptune in the sign of Aries. So, firstly, remember Neptune entered Aries in 2025, somewhere in March, and then it's going to leave the sign of Aries for a little while, gonna shift back into the sign of Pisces, and then finally goes into Aries at the end of January 2026, and it will remain there for several years, more than a decade, actually. And, I mean, Jupiter spends approximately about 11.87 years in one sign. So Jupiter will be entering the sign of Leo next year and then spending there a little bit longer than 1 year. But now they are 120 degrees apart from each other, which we call as a trine. And the trine is an easy flow of energy between the two planets. It highly depends on what went down with the conjunctions, of course. So also you need to remember that aspects are not momentary events. So they have an orb of influence and the energy is building up. And then when they start separating, then it's kind of like releasing. So even though the event is going to be taking place July 20th, but like I said, they are going to be within orb already this year from October till December. So we're going to get a bit of a preview there, what to expect. So the trine is considered to be harmonious, it's a flowing aspect, which could bring a sense of inspiration or inspired actions, typically because it's Aries and Leo. And of course, a little bit of a creative expression as well. And that Jupiter is in the sign of Leo, of course, and Leo represents creative expressions. So therefore, this could really indicate certain type of creative breakthroughs. Like we have got this surge of creative energy, we've got our idealistic visions, and we want to make them happen, basically. We want to make them tangible. This is exactly where Saturn can help us. But also, potentially it's about the willingness to take bold action to support your spiritual endeavors. Maybe it's a humanitarian cause, for example. Or Aries and Leo are really about leadership as well. So Jupiter and Neptune cycles are often about a vision. And it's kind of like spreading hope. And of course, this is potentially allowing you for a personal growth as well. So maybe it's an opportunity to align with your personal ambitions with a higher purpose. So on one hand, remembering that the initial conjunction went down in the sign of Pisces back in 2022, April. And that could have been a spiritual awakening, like a compassionate understanding, or we got inspired around that time. And, I mean, Jupiter and Neptune is often like the boundless empathy as well. Or this conjunction could have acted like a download of universal truth, or a new idealistic vision. So imagine you are at a crossroad in your life, feeling a deep sense of disillusionment with your career or your social life or your general path in life. And you might have been successful by any standards, but your soul feels drained and unfulfilled. And, the conjunction in the sign of Pisces was potentially a moment of clarity for you. It's Pisces is not a logical sign. It's not a step-by-step realization. We get these flashes of intuition. And maybe Pisces is quite a quiet sign as well, or it's a reflective sign. So potentially, we might have meditated, and during meditation, we had this, vision of what I want to do in my life. Or maybe I was just walking in nature, or I was listening to music, and then I got inspired. And you somehow recognized that your true purpose maybe isn't about climbing a ladder, but about a form of creative expression or humanitarian service. So imagine a scenario where, for example, you realize that, the work that you do, let's say Pisces is in your 10th house, for example, therefore you've got a Gemini rising sign. And potentially you realize that the work that you do is not great. And then you had this vision, and hopefully you went for the vision. This trine can enable you to actually make something out of it. Maybe you are able to spread it. So maybe you are able to kind of, let's say, help a non-profit organization, or helping the underprivileged somehow. Or maybe the vision got created back in 2022, but now you are ready to leave your corporate job, and let's say you're going to become this full-time musician, for example. Maybe at that time it didn't seem to be possible, but now this trine can allow you to do that. And Jupiter and Neptune together is not just a vision, but it's a dream as well. So we planted a dream back in the sign of Pisces in 2022, and then now Neptune in Aries is asking us to take action about that dream. This is not necessarily about immediately acting on this. I mean, Pisces energy is very dreamy. Sometimes it lacks the grounding. So you might spend the next few years processing this new vision, or learning about it, or doing the research, or just sitting on the fences, basically, maybe waiting for the right moment. But this trine can be the right moment for you. So, we've got this cosmic energy, which started back in 2022, and that was a little bit quiet idealism. But it looks like there's a lot more courage here, a lot more inspired action right now with that trine. Maybe the trine can even make it easy to put your vision into practice. I wouldn't say that this is, I mean, maybe this is a moment to be bold and to step into the spotlight. So, for example, this is about, like, for me, it is the first house. I've got Pisces rising sign. So back in 2022, I pretty much started doing fitness retreats. And I fell in love with fitness. And I started thinking about doing a fitness channel, or becoming a personal trainer, or doing something with fitness. Now, it's very interesting that Jupiter will be now in my sixth house, which is about lifestyle. And I'm going to have Neptune in the second house. Maybe this is going to allow me to start money, or to invest into it. Or maybe I had this vision of having the perfect body back in 2022. I wasn't satisfied with it, so I had some plastic surgery done because of loose skin and so forth. So maybe this is about a period of time with the second and the sixth house where I'm going to continue to work on it, and I'm a step closer to that vision. Okay? So this is how I would put together your own natal chart as well. So, Jupiter in Leo, like I said, we made a complete video about that, but Jupiter is the planet of expansion, the good fortune. And it's all about expanding your ego, expanding your confidence. Somehow this Jupiter in Leo lights up your purpose, your leadership, and hopefully you feel that surge of courage that you need to be seen. You 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 no longer content to just dream, but you want to make somehow a public statement. And of course, Neptune in the sign of Aries, Neptune is the planet of dreams and inspiration, but it is now in a very pioneering, a very assertive sign. So, this is about your dreams getting infused with this potent self of selfhood and initiation. Your vision is no longer just a beautiful fantasy, but it's a call to action. So become a trailblazer. So I want to give you some scenarios. Let's imagine that a musician who had this spiritual download in 2022 finally finds the courage to book their first public show. And instead of feeling nervous, they feel, that it's a divine moment. This is their sense of purpose to be on stage. Now, this could be a brilliant scenario, for example, if Jupiter or Neptune currently are in your fifth house, for example, which means that Pisces cusp would be, let's say if your Jupiter is in the fifth house, then it means that your Pisces cusp is going to be in the 12th house. And the 12th house is often the representation of dreams and spiritual downloads. And maybe you're gonna step on that stage and then the audience is moved because maybe it's a soulful song that you are about to perform. But also it might be entrepreneurship. Maybe you are one who wanted to start a business opportunity. And maybe you've launched a crowdfunding campaign, and maybe you give this, speech why they should support you. And maybe you create a social media campaign that, becomes somehow viral. Again, this could be a scenario for a Gemini rising sign if the Pisces cusp is in your 10th house. Or maybe you are someone who gets this confidence now to become the public face of a movement. Or simply you become someone who is just, having that unshakable faith to go after something that they truly believe in. So, what's common in the scenarios is that everything started a little bit quieter, private. We had that spiritual download. And then now it's somehow starting to come together. And then that creative leadership and vision is potentially getting manifested in 2026. Imagine this trine as giving you the red carpet to be able to walk on, meaning that it's all about stepping into your own power. So I can imagine recognition, for example. Now you don't not only have the courage to share your work with others, but maybe you get very good feedback and response as well. This is potentially very good for people who work in art, music, or even business, or you're working with people because now you can touch the people's heart on a spiritual and emotional level as well. Or you simply step into this leadership role. Maybe it's your career or a new project. And that becomes a kind of like a new person or new purpose for you. Or maybe there is a lot of healing going down for you. You're going to start healing the Pisces cusp of your chart. Maybe you start a wellness practice. Let's say if Pisces is in your sixth house cusp. And eventually you fall in love with it. And it becomes something that you want to make money out of later on. Because if you've got Pisces in the sixth house, that's meaning that most likely Jupiter is transiting through your 11th house next year, which is also a house of earnings. So, and of course, the Aries would like to take action about it. So there's a lot of spiritual healing, a boost of confidence here. And I also believe that if you do spiritual practices, then it can be integrated into your daily life as well. Instead of just doing, let's say, meditations, but you might get more drawn to a like physical practices, like I'm gonna do this, I don't know, expressive dance or martial art or yoga. Negative scenarios are possible even with a trine as well. Because Jupiter in Leo is very confident, it can inflate the ego. So instead of like being a visionary leader, maybe become the self-righteous person. And the vision can be way too big, and maybe it's difficult to kind of blend it with practical realities. So therefore, maybe it's successful at the beginning, but then people awaken and then walk away from you. Or we can have this spiritual guru complex as well. Like Jupiter is all about influencing others, and Neptune is about spirituality. So, of course, we can have this godlike attitude. We can feel like we are a spiritual messiah, and we can create a cult with it. Or our opinion could be very fixated also. But the Pisces element was all about oneness. So it's also about trying to bring people together. Or, like the trine is offering a path for your dreams to come true, to manifest, but it also can amplify illusions as well. So you can get lost in your idealistic visions, and therefore you can make reckless, unrealistic plans. Aries is very reckless from time to time. Or, we have got quite a few fire elements, right? Leo and Aries are all fire. And there is that unquenchable desire to fulfill the vision. So therefore, we can take on too much too quickly. And therefore, we can burn out. It can lead to exhaustion. You might disregard your personal boundaries. Because Aries often has got this idea of being invincible. In some cases, this could even indicate that because Jupiter is the planet of excess and Neptune is about like the spiritual experiences and the escapism. So unfortunately, it can even show up as an addiction problem also, or wanting things larger than life. Addictions such as alcohol, drugs, or gambling, or even sex and many forms. Of course, it could be food as well. So you're going to have to be looking at your own chart, what house position it falls into. So do let me know where the Pisces, Leo, and Aries cusp of your chart is. Let's look at it on a global level because that might be also super interesting. Like I said, we're gonna have a Pluto Juno con. No, I haven't mentioned that. So what I mentioned was that we've got the Jupiter and Neptune trine happening at the same time, while Pluto is being opposed by Jupiter as well. Pluto does make a conjunction to Juno, but I'm gonna make a separate video about that. But the Jupiter and the Neptune trine already can talk to us about international alliances. And Juno being in the picture, it is surely international alliances. So I can imagine the creation of new, bold international alliances founded on shared ideas. And that's Neptune. And also maybe this is certain type of a collaboration on global issues like climate change or humanitarian crisis. Or this could indicate the rise of visionary leaders, influential political figures who inspire hope and a sense of shared purpose. A leader who has got a very bold vision, of course. Or this could talk to us about, the how like the art, the culture, or humanitarianism are about to be changing. Like Like, there is that collective idealism seated in the sign of Pisces. Now we can find a powerful expressive outlet to it. So this could be a time when nations and peoples are moved to engage in large-scale charitable efforts or to create and share art and so forth. There could be a lot of courageous social movements as well, by the way. The energy of Neptune in Aries encourages people to take bold, self-sacrificing actions, while Jupiter in Leo provides the stage and the platform for these actions to be seen. And of course, even it could represent some technological and social innovation also, but we have been talking about those for a very long time, so I don't want to be mentioning it again. Now, the shadow side of Jupiter in Leo is hubris, is the thirst for power. And combine that with Neptune in Aries, often that's a blind, single-minded, distorted ideal. So therefore, this could show the rise of an authoritarian leader as well. Maybe it's a populist, someone who is very compelling, someone who is very manipulative. Or there could be a lot of ideological fanatism and conflict as well with this, of course. The willingness to fight and even sacrifice oneself for an ideal. So therefore, ideological clashes are highly possible, even with a trine. And maybe the conflicts, not necessarily just over resources, but maybe over differing beliefs and the sense of my truth versus your truth. And, I mean, Jupiter's expansion and that Aries martial energy, I mean, this could talk to us about aggressive policies as well. I mean, Jupiter in Leo is all about national identity, and there is an overconfidence there, righteousness there. So therefore, we can take really reckless and destructive actions as well on a world stage. I mean, Jupiter and Neptune cycles are often associated with economic bubbles as well and financial speculations. So therefore, I do remember Jupiter and Neptune conjunction a week after one of these cryptocurrencies completely disappeared. So maybe this is a birth of a new one, or maybe a disappearance of an existing one again. We will see. But um, I also believe that Neptune-Jupiter conjunction did bring us a bit of an inflation issues also, and the oil prices were high, all-time high. So I can even imagine something happening with the Jupiter and Neptune cycle also. The other danger here is the widespread disillusionment. I mean, the grand and optimistic vision, and often we just want to prove that it is not just a fantasy, but it's a reality. So, and when it doesn't happen, it leads to regrets and disillusionment and betrayals. So therefore, that's where the Pluto opposition could be coming into the picture, which I'm going to talk about separately. But of course, I might start demonstrating. On top of that, I think there is going to be a lot of breakthroughs happening in medicine industry as well. Hopefully, this is the integration of Western medicine with holistic and alternative practices. I can imagine a lot of heroic moments as well. I can imagine an international research project to find cures for, certain type of diseases like cancer, neurological disorders, and so on. I can imagine the rise of health-oriented leaders, which we must have, or we need them, right? Because healthcare, in my opinion, has been improved, I mean, has been ignored, unfortunately, by many countries nowadays. Um, maybe it's a rich person, Jupiter in Leo, who starts this kind of like like a foundation to fund the research to find solution to this rare disease. Or hopefully this is going to be a political leader who might become the champion of this new healthcare model. Aries is associated with the head. And also it's a very pioneering sign as well. Neptune rules illusions and things that are not what they seem, as well as inspiration. So I can imagine a revolutionary advancements in prosthetics and medical technology. Maybe something that restores the person's sense of self and identity. So, like a prosthetic limb or the natural extension of the body, something like that. Of course, this can come with negatives also. And we can have a lot of charlatans, the miracle cures. And let's be frank, this is already existing. Well, I can imagine a lot of spiritual healers who are offering these quick fixes to your problems. There could be a lot of reckless decision made in the medical fields. Like let's say we've got the scientists or research teams pushing forward with a not properly tested treatment or technology. And, it seems to be good, but then maybe it causes a lot more damage than anything else. And of course, without considering the long-term consequences. I can imagine, a divide could grow between the old school medicine and the new holistic type of healing as well. And maybe it's on a political level. Or, I can imagine addiction to become quite a huge problem among us. And I can even imagine that the costs of the care might become a super big topic for us, where people are angry that, a therapy or a procedure, which is actually maybe revolutionary, but it costs an arm and a leg, and it's only available to a selected few. Um, I think I'm thinking back, 2022 and April, and I think the most prominent global event was the Russian and Ukrainian war. And so therefore, maybe with the Trine, there could be kind of like some peace coming up there. Or maybe this is about helping, like coming together and then helping the refugees. At the time, countries opened their borders and millions of people and organizations mobilized to provide aid and showcasing, you know, um, that they are against this brutal conflict. So I can imagine something happening around that. Or, Pisces was all about the unity, but also it can represent mass delusion and misinformation as well. I think humanitarian efforts soared back in 2022. But that war is very much ideological and nationalistic, has got that nationalistic narratives. So maybe we're gonna get a little bit more truth out of it. Or um for me, the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction, if you listen back to that video back in 2022, I wasn't the most optimistic about it. Um, yeah, I just wasn't. So I mentioned a lot of negative stuff that could be happening with that. 2022, the COVID-19 pandemic was still, in a phase of flux and new variants were coming out. And however, they started easing off lockdowns, I believe. But we were kind of like in a transitioning field, though. So I'm not saying that this should be bringing a new pandemic, but there could be more news about the long-term impact of certain type of injections, for example. In 2022, there was a lot of interest and funding for research into psychedelic assisted therapy for mental health as well. I mean, Neptune rules drugs and altered states of consciousness, and Jupiter expands and legitimizes. So I can imagine that it's going to become a topic. And I think there was a growing conversation about around the limitations of conventional medicine and quite a surge in interest in holistic and alternative healing modalities. I think the pandemic actually pushed many to look beyond traditional methods and exploring everything from herbal remedies to mindfulness and energy work and so forth. So we might see those type of stuff just kind of getting even bigger. Um, yeah, I think I mentioned everything that we need to know about this upcoming Neptune and Jupiter trine. Well, do let me know what you think about it. I mean, I also would, this is a Jupiter-Neptune trine, but actually it's a sextile to Pluto and an opposition to Pluto and a sextile to Uranus as well. So this is going to be big. So I've already, I'm only breaking down now the Neptune Pluto, but you might want to be signing up for my channel because I am going to be talking about that Jupiter Pluto opposition and the Jupiter Uranus sextile as well. And then maybe we're going to make a separate video where we bring all these together. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Through every sign and every house, a journey starts and we allow the universe so vast and true. Astro Viktor, it's here for you.